Hello, trucking YouTubes and TikToks. Today we are going to do an episode with my lawyer, Mr. John Larson, who started doing transportation on top of other law. Today we're going to get into a bunch of stuff, and I guarantee you we're going to end up talking about Carrier 401. That is definitely going to be a hot topic today. So, John, if you just want to introduce yourself, where you're from, what areas, what kind of law you're doing right now.
John Larson. I practice law all over Illinois, mostly Chicago, Illinois. As Bobby just said, we've entered into the trucking industry, a great industry, a big industry, powerful, and we want to make a difference in this industry. We strive on doing the right thing and then never losing cases. So my main thing is when I talk to the people in the truck industry, I need them to tell me the truth. Once I get the truth, we go ahead and run with it, and we do what we need to do to get freight car removed and other things that people need that will stop the brokers from kind of picking on the truckers.
Yeah, you've probably been seeing a lot of that lately, how you've been dealing with a lot of the Carrier 401 stuff, I take it.
Yeah, we've had a lot of Carrier 401, a lot of highway.com. I have good relationships with both those companies because I know what they're looking for. So the relationship works because I know what they're looking for, and I know what my trucking companies have to do and how they can meet those 2 points and have a victorious outcome. There are cases, though, we have to file lawsuits, not against Carrier or Highway, but against the company that posted the false posts or the defamatory posts.
Yeah, so what's the craziest one you've seen so far that worked out for you?
They're all crazy. I guess the craziest one is the one I had today, which says that a guy used 5 Magic Jack phones, completely redid his location on the pings when he could ping every 15 minutes, and he was able to change that. At least that's what the broker stated. Now, I don't know if it's true or not. I'm in the middle of getting down to the bottom of it, but that's it goes pretty weird, that and accusing people of outright fraud and dishonesty and deceitfulness, when in reality, sometimes it's just a mistake, and that's what people make, a mistake. They're late or they had to cancel a load. Okay, no big deal, but you can't start telling them the world that they're frauds, because they're not frauds.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild, man. Like one of our mutual friends, you dealt with. I don't want to put people's information out there, but I think you helped deal with the situation where he got in a fraud situation, which wasn't even his fault. Obviously, he has a bunch of over 100 trucks, 30 trucks with no loads, pending Carrier freight guard report. For a reason the broker shouldn't put it on there, and he's stuck not being able to cover 30 trucks. Until it's resolved, which is absolutely crazy.
Right, which is a lot of times what I tell people when they call me. Hey, I'll threaten whatever I can if we got if we're on the right side. But more importantly, you got to be willing to file a lawsuit. I will file a lawsuit immediately if you let me, because sometimes that's what gets the brokers to move. And I'm not trying to be mean towards the brokers when I say that. I'm just saying I don't want brokers putting false information out there. So if they're accusing somebody of fraud, like your friend, and it wasn't fraud, well, they get sued for defamation. If they accuse them of criminal activity, like I had in the case Friday, and it wasn't criminal activity, that's called defamation per se, which means we don't even need to prove damages. We'll get damages even without proving the actual damages. So in your case, your friend had 30 trucks that they can't use. I don't need to necessarily prove that in my case. Could be a one outfit trucking company, but when it's defamation per se, it makes it a little bit easier. But I prefer to go after them right away if they're lying. If the brokers are lying, there's no reason for it. They can make their post without lying, but that's got to stop in their end. So we've got to put an end to it.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. Like I seen one was brought to my attention. I actually did a TikTok video on it. Same broker on the same carrier for the same reason, 5 different Carrier 401 reports. Like, oh, they're whatever late. Oh, they threatened to sue me. Oh, they sued me. Oh, this. I'm like, dude. And I actually called the company trying to, they kind of just like talk to them about it, see if they'll do an interview about it. The guy got all upset, called Darren from Carrier 401. Then I got Darren calling me, threatening me, he's gonna ruin me and stuff. So I mean, dude, this Carrier 401 thing's a little wild, I mean, it's out there.
Well, it's wild, but I can tell you what, though, I've spoken to Darren a couple of times, and I can tell you that he is working his company to try to weed out the bad people, and by that I mean on both sides. He doesn't want the brokers lying about the transport companies and vice versa. So our job is also working with highway.com and carrier401.com to get them to allow the brokers to complain, but not to put them in the wrong categories, which is what's happening. They're just being put in the wrong categories, And that gets the brokers in a lot of trouble. I hate to keep sounding like a broken record, but when somebody's late on a load, you can't charge them with any defamatory claims. You've got to say exactly what happened and nothing else, and you can't put them in these pigeonhole them in these categories. And that's what we're trying to change in the industry.
But I don't really think that the Darren guy really cares that much, because if he did, there'd be some kind of like process where like somebody on his side actually looks at it, talks to one side of the party, talks to the other party. You know what I mean? And that some kind of due process, you know. And then also another thing is there's like, first, I got another buddy, he's got a carrier phone report. I tried helping to get him off. I called the broker that gave it to him. The broker's like, hey, we don't even use carrier phone one no more. Let me call them, see if they take it off. They wouldn't even take the guy's call. He's not paying for their service no more. So why is that report still on there? Or if a broker's out of business, has bad credit, for example, they should be not allowed to use carrier 401. So, you know what I mean? That there's certain things that I think they should really fix about it. You know?
Of course, yeah. Carrier 401 and highway, they both have to change some things. And I think I'm making good strides with the people in those companies to make the changes necessary. And it's going to take time. It's nothing they're going to change right away, but I believe if they see that I'm the good guy while I'm defending the companies from what I consider the bad people that are brokers that are writing bad stuff about good people, I think they're willing to listen and to change. Again, that'll take time though, but I think we're on our way to doing that.
The only problem is with taking time, you're putting a lot of good companies out of business, you know?
Unfortunately, yes. And that's where that's where I got to file the lawsuits. If people let me file lawsuits, and listen, Bob, you know as well as a lot of other of your friends, I don't charge a lot of money. I'm a good lawyer, but I don't charge a lot of money. I don't charge people to talk to them or to take emails from them. I'm very quick and aggressive, but people have to be aggressive too. They have to let me do my thing, file a lawsuit, go after the company, get our judgment, get it taken down, get an injunction to force them to take it down, and then hit them with damages. And that's the only way we're going to stop any of the bad brokers from writing good things about good companies.
But like, say for example, since carrier 401 passed a new thing that after 72 hours, even if you take the carrier 401 report down, it's still going to be up there that some kind of report was up there. So I mean, even if you do get it taken down, like carrier 401's making to the point where it's still going to damage the companies in the long run, no?
Well, I haven't seen that yet. I heard that's what's going to happen or that's what's happening. I haven't seen the results of that yet. In other words, nobody's come to me and said, hey, the broker said they want this down, but carrier 401 kept it up. I haven't seen that yet. I'm not saying that it's not happening. I'm saying that I haven't seen it yet. So until I see it, I can't work with it. Once I see it, I can certainly make calls and see what I can do about it.
Yeah. And on top of it, what's getting wild is like, dude, addresses, VIN number. Like if you buy a VIN number truck and you put it on your insurance, Howie's automatically going to link that to you. And then a broker's going to look at it. He might not want to use you because the company that had bad reports or whatever before too, which is nuts because you should be able to submit like a bill of sale or whatever and, show proof of that. But that's causing people a lot of damage as well.
I literally had one of those clients just the other day call me on that. That was last week. I don't know if that was your friend or not. I can't remember. I think it was. I'm not sure. But we addressed that and they did take it down. So they didn't, they dinged them for the couple days. And then once I got a chance to write them a letter and then follow up with a phone call, we were able to get them to take it down.
Yeah, that's good. Cause like same thing with like addresses, like a lot of like places is like a big warehouse, a lot of companies, one bad company is going to bring down every single other company that's linked to that address.
Absolutely. Because you've got to address, let's say they're using, even if they're just neighbors, they assume that it's just being crossed by both of them. And it's, the two companies work on the same stockyard. That's not necessarily the case. So again, it's up to me to convey that to the broker and say, hey, take this down. Here's why it's wrong. And if you don't take it down, we're going to go ahead and file a lawsuit. Yeah. And we do. I always tell my clients, not just in this industry, in every industry, don't have me threaten somebody we're not going to follow through. So if my clients say, hey, John, get this taken down. Okay, well, here's what it's going to take. And if I got to threaten a lawsuit, let me file that lawsuit. And, that's what the client's got to be willing to do is file lawsuits.
Well, I mean, a lot of times once you file a lawsuit, like, especially if you're like a smaller company and especially if you got a lawyer like yourself that it's like, because like a freight broker probably got like a whole expensive lawyer. So in order for them just to reply to it or do anything, it's going to cost them a bunch of money. Whereas if you're a smaller trucking company and you're using, like, say, for example, you're actually going to be paying pennies on a dollar compared to what they have to put in legal fees, right?
Correct. And that's because I'm not going to charge for everything. I don't charge for the emails, as I said before. I don't charge when my client calls me. Why would I do that? I used to be a client before too when I was in business and I had to call a lawyer. And I used to make a whole list what I used to say to a lawyer because I knew I had 15-minute billing. So I better get everything I got in 15 minutes. I don't want people to do that. If it takes you a half hour or 45 minutes to tell me your story, or if it takes 10 phone calls and 20 texts, I need to hear your story. So I'm not charging you for that. So we save a lot of money that way. We don't charge for everything. We just charge for the work we do against the company we're going after. We do not charge our own clients for talking about their cases, and nor should any lawyer, but that seems to be the practice in my industry. We've got a lot of bad companies in my industry too that they want to bill out. I'm not one of those people. I want to deal with good people, and I want to make sound decisions and not bill people for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely vouch for that. You're definitely my top two favorite lawyers I ever had in my life. You and Joe Barbaro, my criminal lawyer when I was a kid. That guy was
Okay.
was
Well, I don't
amazing.
know, but I'm sure he's a good guy if you're saying he is.
Yeah, even like one time, I had court and I had no money, so I was like, man, I'm not gonna call him. I'm just gonna try to get a public defender. This guy just showed up to court and just seen my name on there and helped me out. So, like, there are, like in everything, there's always some good people and some bad people, and like you said, that's why a lot of people are scared to go to lawyers because like we just got dragged. Our situation in Washington, we just got dragged. That was probably like $70,000, $80,000. I'm like, oh my, and
Oh yeah, because you got to go to a foreign state to do it, and yeah, like you said, they charge you a lot of money, but they don't have John Larson there.
yeah, too
So
bad.
yeah, I would have loved to have been able to do Washington, but my law license doesn't go outside of Illinois unless it's a pro hoc vice situation. But that's a whole nother story.
So I see you're enjoying transportation a little bit, huh?
I actually do. You are the one that obviously turned me on to transportation when I first started working with your company, and after a while, I started loving it, and it's grown by leaps and bounds. I told you before I had to hire another lawyer to take on all these cases because there's so many of them, which is great. I love the business.
That's good. So hopefully it keeps on growing. I might be asking you for a job if my transportation stuff
Yeah, you got it.
don't work out over here, man, because it's so bad. It's so bad in trucking right now. And then, on top of it, dealing with all these brokers and Carrier for One and highway, it's like, dude, they're not making it easy. It's going to get to the point where it's just going to be like, they're going to put so many people under, they're going to screw themselves because eventually they could push it to a certain point, but it's going to get to the point where they're not going to be able to cover their loads, and then they're going to be paying up the butt for freight charges,
All right, just for the very reason you said, the small companies are going to go out of business. It's going to be the large companies taking over. The large companies are going to realize we're the only ones left, and they're going to start jacking up the prices because they can.
And they won't be able to cover all of it
It's the
either.
small companies that keep everybody in check. So the brokers now need to realize that is don't be too hard on these companies. If there's a mistake, let somebody apologize and say, hey, I made a mistake, and let them go. Don't keep on posting freight guards against them because you are going to destroy a good company over a silly mistake.
Yeah, and they keep on saying so for fighting fraud, all that stuff. And the thing is, like, I don't know how deep you actually got into the fraud that's happening in trucking, but all this fraud that's happening could actually be like prevented if people just like check people's actual emails, like use like certain little steps, and that's gonna be the fraud that's prevented. The stuff they're doing with this highway and Carrier for One, this is not helping fraud. This is actually just ruining good companies.
Right. They've got to learn to try to talk to people. I try to tell everybody, listen, there's no point in being mean to each other. Try to be nice to each other. I'll be honest to each other. For my trucking clients, I tell them, be honest. Always be honest because people can deal with the honesty. So, hey, if you're going to be late in a call, just say, I'm sorry, I'm going to be late in a call, whatever the case is. I think that's always the best advice. But, if they get past that, I will definitely step in and take care of it.
Well, I mean, you should definitely be honest with your lawyer. Even if you're at fault, just be honest with your lawyer, and then he's going to find a way to try to help you the best he can with the situation he has. But
people should understand as a lawyer, I mean, I wouldn't tell anybody anyway, but I'm under an ethical obligation to not share your information. You can tell me where you buried the body. I can't tell anybody, okay? That's between you and me. So people should know you could tell, and you should tell your lawyer everything. If you're going to tell me a lie, and I'm going to go defend you with that lie, and then I'm getting caught for telling a lie, I'm no better than the person that told the lie. So you don't want that. You want me to have the full truth and let me fight them based on the truth. I don't turn anybody away that's telling me the truth.
Yeah, because especially in situations like this, like like this Carrier for One, like really hits deep, and I don't think they understand the actual severity of what kind of damage it causes a trucking company. You know what I mean? Like to them, it's just like, oh, whatever, I'm gonna put a report up. But if they actually like seeing how much damage it causes, I would hope they would think twice about posting some of these ridiculous reports on there.
A lot of these reports, as you said earlier, these reports need to be investigated. There needs to be an investigative step for the for the companies that are transporting this stuff, and not just give brokers carte blanche to say whatever they want, because that's really unfair.
So what is exactly protecting Carrier 411 from somebody just doing a class action lawsuit and just wiping them out?
There's federal laws protecting them. Carrier 401 is there's like a company called ripoffreport.com for other people, for businesses. Certain businesses like Carrier 411 have a federal statute that stops people from filing lawsuits. And if they do file lawsuits, it'll just get dismissed. So if I do file a lawsuit against Courier or Highway, it will get dismissed. They're not the people that are doing the posting. They're the people that are accepting the post, much like Google. So if I write a bad report on somebody's company on google.com, they can't sue Google. Google did nothing wrong. All Google did was allow them to post it. And that's the where Carrier and highway.com are too, is they're allowed to post what somebody else told them to post.
Now there's no back door or anything like anywhere to like to pierce that or
No, there potentially could be. I have to look more into it. You just tell me a story about how a broker is basically willing to write a letter saying it's no good, take it down, and then Carrier is keeping up. I have not looked into that yet because I haven't had a client with that. You're telling me you have somebody, he might want to call me. I could research it more to see if there is something that where I could call Carrier and say, hey, listen, guys, under this statute, it doesn't protect you if you leave it up once the broker tells you to take it down. Again, I don't know if that's right now, but I will look that up to find out if that is a kind of a back door to say, hey, you guys can't do this now because now you're going beyond the federal statute that protects you.
and it doesn't matter that it's a paid service. For example, like Google's free to use. So if they're a paid service, that doesn't like
No, that doesn't change anything. No, unfortunately, it's when they create these federal laws, I don't think they realize these are regular Joes that ran for Congress or ran for Senate, and they make these laws, and we've just got to abide by them. So the best thing to do is try to work within the laws.
yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man, because especially all these years, I personally think like if like a bunch of carriers got together and tried doing a lawsuit on Carrier for one, I think they would win. But I just think they're not like as united, because if you get like 100 trucking companies put up like $1,000 each, and actually get a like a fund and then just start going after them.
Here's how that would work, Bobby. Is you'd have to kind of get the law changed a little bit because the law is a law. Okay, I don't care if you give me $10 million, I can't change the law. If you give me $10 million and you tell me to go and work over Congress a little bit, that's a whole different story. That's what lobbyists do. Lobbyists are paid to get laws changed. So that's really where it needs to change. It's not going to change. You can hire 10 really, really, really great lawyers, and it's not going to change. It's not going to change until we get the law changed. And we can do that. But again, that would take, like you said, it would take a lot of trucking companies to all put into a pot, and that pot going to someone that we can bring in, a lobbyist, and get that law changed. It doesn't even need a big change, just a little change. A couple of words need to change, and it would fix everything.
A little side door just to get in there.
Yeah, because there's just something that it has to be truthful, or it has to something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, is there anything else what other stuff you're doing with transportation right now? Besides obviously fighting Darren every day.
That's it right now, is fighting, and I'm enjoying the fight. I like to fight. It's not that I'm a bad guy and like fighting. I like fighting for the good guy. I like fighting for the little guy, the guy that's starting up his company. When I graduated high school in 1982, first thing I did was start a company. I was a little guy, and we grew and we grew and we grew, and now I became a big company. Then I went to law school and did this, but yeah, I'm a entrepreneur at heart, and I love entrepreneurs. I think whether you have one truck or 200 trucks, I would love to work with you because I love entrepreneurship. I love the fact that you guys get out there and do what it takes, and you keep America going too. So without you guys, nothing moves.
What kind of business you started in 82?
What's that?
Oh, what kind of business you started in 82 when you got out of high school?
It was a muffler shop.
Oh, really?
Is what it was called. We started in Lansing, Illinois. We moved into East Chicago, Indiana. Then we opened up all over Chicago, Illinois, Griffith, Indiana. I think there's still one of my companies in Griffith, Indiana at 7 West Ridge Road. In fact, if you ever go there, tell Adam that his best friend, John Larson, sent you, and he'll even give you a discount. But yeah, that was a company I started, and we grew by leaps and bounds. Then, like I said, then I went to school, became a lawyer, and doing this now.
Yeah, my wife said you used to live in our subdivision in Dyer, right, or something like that.
Oh yeah, I was at 2446 Flat Rock in Dyer, Indiana.
Flat Rock. Oh, I think that's when you're coming up that little side street, by the train tracks. That's where Flat Rock is, right? You
Yeah,
make
you got the train
yeah,
tracks
yeah,
and
yeah,
Flat
yeah,
Rock
yeah.
next street over.
Yeah, that's crazy because I think we bumped into I think it was your dad's company when we bought that condo to flip, and then he was like actually the association. Right? Such a small world, dude. I'm telling you,
Yeah, right.
it's crazy. So, I mean, like, but you also do like contracts, right? Obviously, because I think you just
Oh
did
yeah, I'm
one.
sorry. I left that whole part out. I mean, it seemed like it was just about fighting. It's that just gets me excited about fighting. But no, we do contracts. So when you're hiring independent contractors, the state of Illinois especially wants to count them as employees. So you can't just have the person agree that they're an independent contractor and voila, it becomes that way. That's not it. If you're providing them a truck, it better be a lease and it better be a lease from another company. So you got to send another company to get that lease going. If it's the same company, it looks like you're doing what you're doing, which is hiding the fact they're independent contractors. So there's a lot of things that we set in motion to take that, what would be deemed as employee, and put it as an independent contractor, but we do it legally. Again, just the fact that they signed off that they're an independent contractor will not make them an independent contractor in the eyes of the state of Illinois.
Yeah, if something happens.
So there are ways to put your contract together that says you're not under our control, you're not using our tools or our equipment. You don't have to check in every day at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Things in there we put in the contract to assure, or at least make our best case that they are not, in fact, employees, that they are contractors.
What's the biggest part? Probably having the trucks in a separate company, like you said, and then lease that on right to them, and then
Right. So if there's a second company, so let's say you got company X and you want somebody needs, because they're a contractor, they need a good working truck. Well, you could have company Y, and company Y is the one that is leasing them the trucks, but it's got to be an independent company,
yeah,
even a different address, different president running that company. It doesn't matter who the owners are, but a different president running that company that is saying, hey, yeah, I'll lease it to you. And then it's an actual separate lease, separate from your company, a company Y. So they're leasing from company Y, and you're owning company X, and that kind of keeps it as an independent contractor status rather than employee or employer status. Because when you start paying people as employees, that gets very expensive.
yeah. I mean, it's probably better to set it up the right way the first time, and then everybody, probably a lot of people are going to be like, oh, but they shouldn't be leased. Whatever. If some people want to do it, if they want to do it, let them do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand
Right.
what
I mean,
the
some of these are true contractors. Just because the state of Illinois says they aren't doesn't mean they aren't. Some of them are true contractors. They can make their own hours. They can, accept the jobs they do want to do and don't want to do. Those to me are not employees, but under a lot of situations in Illinois, they would be considered employees by the state. And so, as I said, that's why I set up contracts that help them overcome that.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't see why anybody else would want to not do 1099. Pretty much like any job possible. If you could get 1099, I don't know why you wouldn't choose that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, 1099 should be an accepted practice throughout every industry and every state.
Yeah, especially even like in transport dispatchers, everybody like a lot of people get all upset and they're like, oh, you're blah blah blah. No, like if you don't want to do it, then don't take the position. But there's a lot of people out there that want to do it. There's too many tax benefits and
Right.
everything,
There's a lot of people, I think you might already know, there's a lot of people too that accept that independent contractor status, but they'll be the very ones that turn you into the state and say, hey, I was
Yeah.
really an employee. And they knew they weren't, but they want to try to get you and people to get fired or whatever or quit. They have a little malice towards you and they want to make you suffer for some reason. Unfortunately, we live in a world that there's a lot of bad people, a lot of bad actors out there.
Yeah, I mean it works both ways. There's a lot of bad companies that screw people over, and there's a lot of bad people that work in
Absolutely.
companies
There's
that
bad
screw
on
them.
both sides, just like there is in the trucking industry. Bad on both sides. So the whole idea is to get rid of the bad, but keep the good.
Yeah. And let's get back to that carrier for one thing a little bit. So for example, like say you actually go through and put a lawsuit right on somebody and you say you win it, like how much money would somebody actually like get back for damages if you do go with
Well,
a
if it's
lawsuit?
not per se, so if it's per se, that's really depends on the judge or the jury. Because per se, you don't have. That's when you accuse somebody of criminal activity, for defamation per se. If it's just regular defamation, then basically, as they say, you got to have the receipts. So let's say you've got a trucking company, and because of something that somebody posted on Carrier 411 that was defamatory, they've cost you business. You're going to have to say, okay, well, I had, let's say, I'm just using round numbers. I had $10,000 a day before this post, all of a sudden this post came, I'm doing $5,000 per day. So your damages are $5,000 per day. So basically, it's basically figuring out how much money you are losing, and that's what the lawsuit is going to be for when it's proven up.
Okay. So just whatever. Okay, another question for you. 'Cause I got this thing in my head because a lot of people on TikTok are hitting me up about collections. You ever think about doing collections for trucking
Yeah,
companies?
what kind of collections? Collections from brokers or?
Yeah, from brokers not paid and stuff like that. Because I mean, I was even thinking about doing some of that stuff for myself on the side just to make a few extra money, but I don't think I could legally do it because you got to have some kind of license, right?
It all depends what you're threatening. No, you don't need a special license to try to collect for money. But a lot of people will listen to lawyers before they listen to a regular company,
Mm.
simply because people get scared when they get a lawyer letter. They don't want that. They don't want to have to deal with that. They know that what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you down. I'm going to get a judgment against you. I'm then going to, go over, do a citation to discover assets, right?
Mhm.
So I'm going to find out every asset you have, and I'm going to go after you to collect that money. Uh, Most people can't do that. So without being a lawyer, you cannot do a citation to discover assets on somebody, get them, haul them into court like that, and get them to come out and tell you where all their assets are.
We should talk.
That's
We should
so
talk
yes,
about this off camera someday because I know like the transportation industry in and out, so I know exactly who to contact. Then I got Zoom info, so I know how to get these contacts emails. We should talk about this. Maybe we can start a little side business of
listen, I'm
of
always up for
collections.
opening up extra businesses. Any way to make more money is always good.
Yeah, I could. Man, we've been so like I'm getting scared right now. This the trucking market's been so bad, and it's ridiculous. Like we've been like writing losses right now for like months, and I'm not. It's
If you got collections, send them to me, Bob. I'm gonna take care of you.
all I
So
was talking about collections, just about the market being so down, and just we're not making no money right now. Just running into negatives with all the overhead. It's just everybody right now in trucking is just they're losing money right now.
why is things going so bad right now?
The rates are just not there. Definitely the rates are not there, and then it's just I don't know, man. It's just like right now for us, our overhead is like I think we're running like -5%. I think we checked
Oh,
last
wow.
time, yeah, which is not good. So we're trying to figure out how to turn this around right now, but
There's no place you can make cuts at.
we're trying. We're definitely trying, but unless the market picks up a lot, it's gonna be rough.
Right.
Especially for the carrier, like a lot of carriers right now. If you just talk to everybody, even like when I like post TikTok videos, like everybody's just commenting the same thing. It's just like super bad right now. So
What changed to make things so bad?
I think what really messed it up, I think, was COVID. Because after like when COVID first hit, trucking died. Then once all that money started flowing in, the market just went crazy, and then everybody started getting money. Trucks, people are buying like trucks for like 250,000, and right now that truck's probably worth 30, 40 grand, if that.
Wow.
And then I think that really messed up the market a lot, and it just never really fully recovered from it because it was like a huge boom, and then just you
Right. So
know
you got too much debt and not enough asset value.
then too many carriers entered the market. They keep on getting wiped out, but it's still not helping. It just basically until the market gets better and there's a surplus, but basically it all comes down to the economy. If the economy gets flowing, people start buying, stuff gets moving, it's going to be fine. But until the economy it gets good, because like not it's an emotional roller coaster right now. Because you had the election, right? That happened. We thought everything's going to be good. Then you got the tariffs. That happened, right? Then finally there's a deal with the tariffs. Good news, little boost. A month later, the New York judges, stopped the tariffs again. Boom, and it's just like
Right.
you just need like a stroke of good luck, instead of just up and down all the time.
I'll agree with you. We got a lot of activist judges out there that, you got to let the administration, whichever side you're on, you got to let the administration do their job and see what goes on. But you got judges that are overturning every single thing the administration does. That doesn't help anybody.
No, no, it
Keeps
doesn't.
everybody in limbo. You don't, and even stockbrokers, they don't know what to do. What direction is everything going? Because one day, the administration says this, next day the courts say that, and you can't get anything done because you don't know where it's going to end up.
Yeah, that's just uncertainty, and that's exactly because because I really didn't like the way he dealt with China. Like in my personal opinion, I didn't like that. I thought that was just way too strong, way too. You can't a bully can't bully a bully. You know what I mean? I think
Right.
he could have went about it a little bit better. But I mean, it happened. He did it. And whether you like the guy or like you said, whatever side you're on, just we should have let it play out. And it ended up going to the point where people started folding, giving in. we're reaching deals, we reach a deal with them, and then the court comes out of nowhere. You know,
Exactly, and that's the key is, and I say that, and you repeated it, is you've got to support. And listen, I may not like one guy over another, but whether it's Biden's administration or Trump's administration or whatever, you've got to support them because if you don't, they're not going to be able to play whatever game they're playing with the other side. You don't want to fight your own party, your own country, I should say, simply because you're not helping anybody. So if you don't like the way Trump handled China, you still got to, as you said, you got to let him go with it because he's got an end game. But with the court stepping in, that takes away and puts everything on hold. So now whatever Trump's end game is, we'll never find out for right now because it's all on hold. And that's the unfortunate part. And, hoping that an administration fails is like being on a ship and putting holes in it. You're going to fail too. So, I always say support whoever your president is. Even if it's unwillingly, just support him because, talk about him behind the table because you got to support him when he's making decisions and not have the courts or anybody else override him like they're doing now. It's insane what they're doing. Whether they like Trump or not like Trump, it's insane what the courts are doing. They got to let the administration fulfill what they're trying to do. And that's the only way we're going to see how this is going to end up.
yeah, you're exactly right. Same thing. I mean, even if you see people out there, like I said, it doesn't matter who was president. Like if the president does something you don't like, just say it. But you know what I mean. But just don't root. So many people are rooting against America, and they're in. I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like,
Right. You're in the ship.
yeah,
Don't be rooting that it's sinking. That's not good. Let it play out. Here, let's say Trump failed at his tariffs. Once he failed, he'd realize, oh crap, I got to do something else, and he would. But the problem now is it's all on hold because of the courts. So Trump isn't going to do anything different right now. He can't. So that's the unfortunate part. And I would be saying the same thing if it was Biden. You got to let them play it out so they could change what's broken or fix it or, stay the course if it's working.
yeah,
But you won't know until you let them see what they're going to do.
yeah, because that ban was coming out. The ships from China were supposed to be coming, so transportation would have picked up. Because right now, most of them come to California. So and most of the stuff went to bonded warehouses because you don't pay tariffs until you actually take the stuff out of the warehouse. So it was about to be a flood of freight coming in, and then they just messed that up.
Well, hopefully Trump is a good businessman. And so hopefully he sees that and he makes some adjustments based on the court's decision for now until this is decided by, which will eventually go to the Supreme Court. But hopefully he does something in the meantime to protect the middlemen, such as yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna go to the Supreme Court, like you said, and they're gonna probably go in his favor, and then they just wasted a whole bunch of time. It's just it just feels like they're just throwing wrenches into gears just to slow him down. But I mean, so far everything's been going on. He's been winning, and it just sucks to see that everybody just keeps on trying to step in and just mess everything up. And like you said, let them cook, see what happens. Because at the same time, I don't need at this point just let's see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? We're already 37 trillion in debt. What more could happen?
Exactly. We are $37 trillion debt, and what 12 trillion, I think, was added by the last administration. Okay. I've never seen a president picked on more than President Trump. He's been picked on by so many people. And now these judges, it's not good. The Democrat Congress, their poll numbers are now 18%, an extreme low, lower than it's ever been in history for the Democrat Party. And they should look in the mirror and say, okay, we need to stop this. We need to stop what we're doing because it's not working. We need to let Trump, be Trump and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully everything goes good, man. Because like I said, America, used to be awesome. My parents came here obviously in the early '80s. They had me, here, and from I remember, everything was good. It was really good. I remember until was it 2008 when the bailouts for the banks happened, and then
Right.
I remember my dad got put on. He got laid off because they were making screws for cars. He was making screws for GM and Ford. So when the car industry went down, I remember all that stuff. And then after that, everything was good too. And then everything was, sailing pretty smooth until the pandemic.
Yeah, it's crazy. That pandemic changed a whole lot of things in everybody's industry.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Everybody's damn industry.
Yeah, the world became a different place. But it's kind of weird. I was talking to somebody that we don't, it's kind of even hard to think how life was in the pandemic. When you get groceries delivered to you, and then I don't know how you worked it, but we would wipe off all the groceries, disinfect it all, then put it on the countertop and be very careful with it. It's kind of weird that we came from that point just, a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie to you. When it first happened, I was a little scared too. But then, You know, like after like, you know, a couple weeks went by and like, I'm like, all right, man, this is, you know,
This is BS, right?
yeah.
But there are people that are still wearing masks, so there are
I,
people that still think it's still cool.
when the first happened, they were wearing gas masks. I was going to stores, they were wearing like full out gas masks. I was like, oh my
Oh
goodness,
yeah,
bro.
you see some pretty weird stuff, like they're wearing the water bottles over their heads, just cutting out, putting. And they were doing a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, luckily with trucking was labeled essential, so I was able to at least like,
Yes,
because if
you
you're,
know,
you know,
oddly enough, so was lawyer. So
oh.
I was able to travel the roads when other people couldn't because they considered it essential. I don't know what was essential about my business, but I took advantage of it.
And then, but that helped your industry out a lot too, right? Because now everything's Zoom, so you're able to kick back in Florida and
I'll
do
tell you what,
Zooms.
that took us into this current century to where, the judges can't force us to come in except for trials. I mean, they do for, hearings, important hearings, which I guess you should. But yeah, during Zoom, we learned how to even do bench trials by Zoom. So I think it helped our industry a lot. So we're not having to charge a client 3 hours for court time. We can now charge them 15 minutes for the actual time we just sat down and, you know, spent on the Zoom call.
So it's nice you get, like you said, because you're chilling in Florida, right? Because you were in Tennessee, then you went down to Florida,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But
So
you want to be
I
close to
travel back and
Darren.
forth to Chicago mainly for trials, but sometimes to visit with people. But yeah, mainly for trials.
You just wanted to live closer to Darren, or what?
No, see, that was just I had no idea until we were talking that he was in Florida too. We're not near each other, just so you know. He's on the other side. But
Close enough.
no, I love the weather. I love the sunshine. That's what it's all about for me is the sunshine.
What part are you in?
I live in the Tampa area.
Oh, okay, yeah, Tampa's nice, man.
Yeah.
One of our dispatchers actually moved to Tampa. He's working from home over there somewhere. I think North Tampa, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you can't beat the number of sunny days we have. And don't get me wrong, right now the heat is brutal heat. For the next 3, 4 months, it is a brutal heat. But even that's bearable. Everybody's got a pool. You just jump in a pool, get back out. Stay in your air conditionings while it's really hot. But for those 4 months, we're willing to tough it out. So when you guys are having 30-degree and minus temperatures, we're enjoying 70s and 80s. So we like it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully business goes good. Maybe one day I'll be able to move down to Florida.
There
We'll
you go.
see.
I'll save you a house down here.
I've been playing the lottery, so all my eggs are in this YouTube, Tic Tac, and lottery basket right now because I don't
Right.
think it's going to be in trucking. All right, John, I think we had a pretty good conversation. We should definitely do it again.
Yes, I appreciate the time here today, and I enjoy talking with you. And as always,
We should do a Tic Tac live one day so people can actually jump on and take questions and stuff like that. So
that'd be awesome.
yeah,
That'd be fun.
I'm gonna figure out how to work that because I just did my first one like yesterday. My son was helping me, so I'll figure out how to work that. We'll get that done, and then I'll make sure to add all your contact info onto this, and then I'll send you a link to it when it's up and going.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the time of everybody watching or listening to this.
Awesome. Then I'll hit you up about that collection agency.
All right, fantastic. We'll start that up.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
All right.